Okay, so now we are moving online. Okay, I'm just to give us a small. Okay, I think we can start. Galena gave me just a sign that it's now online on YouTube on our channel, and it will be the first live talk we have. And hello to everyone. Hello to everyone who is watching this live stream tonight and our conversation, discussion. And hello to everyone who is here in the conversation, to all the participants who are also participants in the project and exhibition at Futura that opened yesterday, and it will be on view until Sunday. And actually, this exhibition was supposed to open a month ago at least, but because of lockdown, it was postponed. So we are actually very happy now to have it even only for 4 days. So everybody who is in Prague, go and see. And yes, the name of the project is It's Time, All the Time for Radical Friendship. And it has been initiated by Swimming Pool. It's an art organization in Sofia, and I'm the director of Swimming Pool. And it is hosted by Futura Prague. And actually, it is a project that is a little bit different than a normal exhibition, because instead of inviting artists, we invited art organizations, as different as project spaces, collectives, and micro-institutions. And so here tonight, to open the show via this conversation, to talk about the topics that actually this project raises, which are at the core of swimming pool practice and very important to us. These are questions about instituting and collaborating, and only to mention that Swimming Pool since 2 years runs an educational program that has been dealing exactly with these questions, and we've been meeting many founders and curators of micro-organizations, and this has been actually the way we all met. So this project is continuation of our conversations, and this is on the one side, it's a continuation. On the other side, for me, it's a beginning where we can actually, in these difficult times, in lockdown and crisis and COVID, we've been all reconsidering and redefining our practice. We can talk about our aims and our concerns, our actions, and most of all, what I'm particularly and personally and via swimming pool practice most interesting, to talk about inventions of such art organizations. And before giving the floor to everybody who has been here with us tonight, and I just say just say hello to everyone, like the way I see you on the screen. Hello, Cristina, Bogdan from ODD, to Vasilis and Danai from Enterprise Projects from Athens, Lorenzo Sandoval from the Institute for Endotic Research from Berlin, Dragos Olea, who is part of Apparatus 22, Alonso Díaz, who is running Fluent in Santander, and I will switch for a short also Benjamin Busch, who is also part of TIER Berlin. So hello to everyone. Before starting with our conversation, I would like to stream a message which has been given to us from Caroline, the director of Futura Prague. She's sending us few words because she's not able to take part of the talk, and on this point, I want to express my greatest gratitude to Futura for hosting the show, for inviting Swimming Pool to conceive it and to propose its topics. and also to share with art organizations that are similar to Swimming Pool and to Futura, and to talk about our concerns. So let me now add the video.
Sorry to interrupt, but there's no sound.
There is no sound.
I recommend unplugging your headphones and letting the sound from the speakers of the computer feedback
Okay.
into your microphone.
All right. Yes, this probably is the reason. I will start it once again.
Hello, I am Krzyszton. I am the director of Futura.
Do you hear it now?
And I am sorry I had to do this small video because I cannot come to the online discussion today. So, first of all, I am filming in front of our swimming pool section of the exhibition, It's Time Also Time for Radical Friendship, curated by Swimming Pool. And this is some sort of perfect, I thought, perfect mirroring to film this talk inside the swimming pool for the talk organized by Swimming Pool. I will give you a small sneak peek of the installation, just for you to have a sense of space. It looks like this. Here you have the vinyl with all the information. And basically, I wanted to give a small introduction talk or context to this discussion, because I think the genesis and the context actually of this exhibition is pretty important in all manners. So for the small story, I became director of Futura about 2 years ago, and this change was a little bit abrupt. And it was at a time where I had a lot of interrogations about art institutions and the way they were evolving. And so I thought one good way to actually start this new job was to ask the question, okay, what is the role of an art institution right now? And regarding this role that we will be giving to it, how should we do or how should we put it into practice in our everyday, basically, functioning as a gallery. At the same time, I have been thinking a lot about Viktoria Draganova's research about actually exactly the same questions, that she was actually reflecting the role of art institutions, as changing, or as she was expressing a need of change because of the post-capitalistic context that gave an impression that galleries should be more focused on care, for example. There are a lot of galleries, for example, that are, for example, the institution of anxiety in Prague that are focused more towards care and all these social questions actually regarding art professions. And so that is one of the examples of the things that interested me, and I contacted Viktoria to invite her to discuss this with me. and probably to even make a project out of this reflection. Viktoria was really interested by it, which made me very happy, actually. And we had like the very preliminary idea was to actually invite other institutions and to create some kind of symposium, or to actually make them all meet to discuss these questions. So it wouldn't be just between us here, and to have something like some sort of public, and to discuss openly with practice all these questions. And unfortunately, things have changed. Became obvious that this exhibition would be only an exhibition, and that we would do even it with the absence of all participants, which absolutely changed the project drastically. And one of the ideas for the exhibition itself was to actually realize the works that actually are touching all these subjects. But about it, obviously, everyone will be telling you more than me. I'm just giving you the framework. So among the artworks that we would exhibit, we would also exhibit interviews of Viktoria with each institution invited to discuss this question, to create some sort of more, I would say, discursive format to this show. So that was the preliminary idea. And I am very glad that along came as 5 other small institutions. I think one of the criteria to choose the institution that Viktoria wanted to work with was to find institutions that were actually extremely engaged into this role of arts institutions, and people who doubted, who had like constructive reflections and critical reflections about institutions. And this exhibition is about giving options about saying, okay, what do art institutions miss right now? How we could improve the connection with the public, with each other? How can we make it more human, I guess, as well, environment? And these micro initiatives or micro organizations, more accurately, were invited to give proposals, basically. About what exactly they propose, they will speak themselves, and Viktoria also will give her version of what I am explaining right now. But before leaving you, I would like to thank every one of you who just joined the project and actually engaged into it very well. I wish that we will all meet at some point and have this conversation face to face, and maybe collaborate with each other more in a way that is not just like project based, it's in a long-term conversation. And I hope that everyone will be inspired by it to just keep interrogating each other about how we should improve our not only scene but also the art world in general. So this is it. I will now leave you to discuss, and I will just show you quickly again the swimming pool, as you have the only chance to see it right now, like from the people that are not in Prague. A quick sneak peek to the rest of the show. I will leave you with that. The rest of the documentation is available at our website, and for the people living in Prague, obviously you can come visit the exhibition, which will be on display, unfortunately, only until Sunday evening. So don't hesitate to visit our social media and everything. Everything will be uploaded, including the text of the exhibition, pictures. So I wish you a very nice discussion and a very nice evening. Goodbye.
So thank you, Carolina, for this warm words and sharing your perspective on this exhibition. And yes, indeed, it is something which, as already mentioned, we deemed important of sharing about concerns, action and vision. And it has been also not only of relevance to discuss this among the invited ones, but it's also about thinking of a greater social and political relevance of these structures, these micro-initiatives that have been all over the world, everywhere around us, surrounding us, in the neighborhoods, in hotels, in gallery spaces, in forests, and to think more about actually what are they doing, how they're interweave with the whole artistic ecosystem. And I can only say that these art organizations that are so different from galleries that are related to the commercial market, and from museums that has to fulfill representative purposes. These organizations, even within the lockdown, most of them they didn't close down. Most of them they were going to different cycles of self-reflection, political work, and institutional visioning. And actually, one of the main questions we've been posing also is about better instituting, as big as it sounds. And for me, this exhibition and this project has been also a way to reflect on that and to think about how society has been shaping itself, where the places where society is shaping itself. And I believe that exactly in this type of organizations, we found languages, we found interrelations, we found different modi of acting together and being active together. So these are actually the big questions I would like also to discuss with you tonight. And I would like to give the floor now to you and pose the first question, which is where are you now? And tell me a little bit more about you and your organization, and what has been the most important thing around this exhibition and around this project which you would like to share with us. And I will start with Vasilis from Enterprise Projects.
Hi, hello.
Hello.
I'm Vasilis from Enterprise Projects. I'm running Enterprise Projects together with Danai and Giannoglou, who was not able to join us today. But I'm representing both of us. We are running Enterprise since September 2015, so it's been like 5 years now. And what I wanted to say is like just to share as a story that may be helpful to understand what we are presenting now at Futura in Prague. So when we started, we didn't really know what we are starting to do, what we are making. So we didn't know what's an artist-run space, what's a project space, how to define all those, etc. So from the very first point, we started creating our identity without even knowing if we need one. So even the name Enterprise Projects makes some kind of a joke related to instituting and creating a space, a non-commercial space, a non-for-profit space. So we collaborated with Bent Design, who are our graphic designers until now, and we asked them for a logo, and their first response was like, why you need a logo? Who are you? What are you doing? Are you like Microsoft? Are you Firefox or who? And that's how we ended up like creating a series of logos. So our identity is not a real identity. We cannot be identified through our logo typing or our website or whatever. So what we are actually presenting in Futura is like the logos that have been rotating for enterprise projects in our press releases, in our website, in our social media for the last 5 years. So it's something that we say quite often, like how you can refuse to institutionalize yourself, how you can refuse to create an institution which actually started as a curator and artist initiative, which had no goal of being institutionalized, and how you can keep this same road through the years. That's it for now.
I used the moment only to share an image of the competition by enterprise project. I hope everybody can see it, which has been installed. It's only one of the logos. Thank you, Vasilis. We can continue with whoever of you want to continue.
Yeah, actually, yeah, maybe I can follow. Yeah, because I think like with here, like some of the questions at the beginning, they were very related. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes, I can hear you. Yes, I can hear you very well. Yeah.
So for example, like when Díaz started, also like I mean, it's a little bit of sense of humor, like because of course, like the fact that the Institute for Endotic Research, then it's Díaz in German. It's like a small joke, like a kind of like a private joke, also like using this acronym that then actually means another thing. So there is like actually almost like a dyslexic element of it, and many people were, do you realize like this is like an animal in German? I was, oh no, I didn't know. So it was like a small joke there. And yeah, and also like thinking about like in terms of design as well, like one of the things like with Tier at the beginning, it was using this kind of idea of bad design, in the sense like how you build an identity through a series of tools. And in this case, it was inspired by 3 elements. Like one, it's like thinking of university departments, when someone knows a little bit of designing the department and do like something that it's useful, but it's not very much properly designed. The second thing, it was the logo of United Parcel Service, which also it's like this kind of transports, like normally they have like very interesting logos because they want to try to appear as dynamic and so on. And the third one, it was the Institute for Genomic Research. Like it was this project, like it was like mapping the genomic map of the oceans. Like I think it's still going. But yeah, then like something like it was fundamental behind. It was this idea of Chilean curator Justo Pastor Mellado, who is actually a person who has been writing a lot. It's a very polemic curator in Chile, actually, because he was working a lot with the right wing. But actually, he was writing like super interesting texts about like how to think first the fiction of the model before the model of management of the institution. So in that sense, like to think about institution making, even when it's a small scale institution system, it's quite interesting in the sense of like how, first of all, like through the logo, the identity, the image, and so on, you create like a fiction. So in that way, with this kind of like fictionalization that happened to be in any single institution, actually it has this process of common agreements, I would say, like of working with certain level of fiction. Then also like what we've been developing, actually it's an artwork. So actually we think here as a host structure, which is also an artwork, but also it gives us tools like, for example, like to redistribute budgets with the people we work. We try to actually get some funding for for the projects. Like I guess like we all try that, but also like because we are like a bureaucratic person as a non-profit as well, we can sometimes help people like with the visas and so on. So I think like this fiction, it's like a very useful fiction as a tool.
Yeah, maybe I can continue because I think as for Fluent, it's quite related to what Lorenzo was saying. I think I've always been very interested in institutions that have been initiated or founded by artists, and also the idea of institution as fiction, which of course connect with Lorenzo just explained. For instance, I was like looking very closely to the Institute for Jurassic Technology in LA, which is also like this space which is quite extravagant and weird in many ways, which you don't really know if it's a museum of natural science or if it's like a work of art or if it's actually a contemporary art museum. It's quite difficult to tell. And it's always like working with this idea of estrangement and ambiguity and the potential of that. And I think like when you think of institution, just like the word, just like going to the very basic idea of what it actually means, it's like a very heavy, like a really sort of even like pompous or pretentious concept, no? Like you think of an institution and you think of like a big building with like a very bureaucratic functioning, like a team that is divided in departments. So, you think of like this very sort of complex technology that is really heavy. So as a kind of, contradiction in terms, I was even like imagining a sort of institution that was the opposite of that. There was something not really solid, something much more fluid, much more displaced or nomadic, or something that was not tied to specific time, space, circumstances, but something that could exist actually just almost like an ephemera or like a conceptual framework. And that's how the project kind of started, trying to work with this idea of estrangement, which I think is quite fitting with the context of the city where we are actually located. Just like coming across a contemporary art organization in Santander, which is it's quite a small city where you don't really expect this type of more experimental projects, kind of reinforces this idea of estrangement on many levels, yeah.
Come on, Cristina,
Should
it's
I
you.
go? Dragos?
Yes.
Dragos is the best. And I'm seeing he's not reacting. Good to see you all. Yeah, well, the question of what is quite simple. It's the most micro institution in that sense because it's just me. So it's kind of like a friend, like an imaginary friend that I can carry around. So in that sense, it is an intellectual project, I would say. It can be fictional, it can be philosophical. It had a very, its scope became more and more defined as it grew in Bucharest. And obviously it was in a certain context, so it responded to it, and it made it tried to deal with what was going on there. So that's a big conversation. But I think because you asked a very specific question regarding, what appeal of your invitation was, and okay, this year I wasn't going to do anything actually, but then you proposed, Viktoria, this, and I'm not. I've kind of left hope for institutions, and I would say I'm really not interested in public space anymore. I think what I've been trying to really create with art is more the possibility of a private space. So when you said, okay, propose something, it was great because I was, you know, kind of going back to my recovering my you know, creative abilities, because I think I'd been acting like an organizer for far too long. I was obviously in confinement, so I've been in India for a year now, and here lockdown was severe, so I've only seen the same space for months and months. So that campus, which you see in the video, which I sent, and it was the possibility of, you know, creating your own space. And I guess this is the most I don't know, whether you're an institution or an individual or whatever, being able to live in your own dream as opposed to in someone else's. I guess it's just, that's great. So I'm happy that I could express that your invitation afforded me the opportunity to, express something that I really wanted to. So I'm glad. It was a good motivator. Thanks.
Dragos? We don't hear you for some reason. Yeah. Do you hear it? Oh, no, I don't hear you, Dragos. Wait a second. Okay, let's see whether it works now. Actually, we just tried it and it worked, so it's strange. It can be, if it doesn't work with the headset, you might want to enter once again the room. Yes, this will be probably better. But yes, in the meantime, we can, while waiting of Dragos, I hope he will be soon back. We can continue, because for me, it's like, it's not only our founding stories and our founding sessions. Once again, he's there. Dragos? No, not yet. So I will continue and just give it a sign as soon as it works. But for me, yes, exactly. For me, it's also the question about which I tried to pose, but for me, it's also the question of urgency. And so when starting the show, for me, it has been also important to ask this question, because I feel, at least in my case, there is need for redefining and rethinking of our practices. And I know from some of you that you've been transitioning different changes. And I've been also seeing this encounter as a possibility to talk about this. At least I know for Fluent that you've been changing places now and you have a new space. Can you tell us a little bit more? And I will be really asking every one of you about the urgencies you encounter in the last few months, which made you probably also reconsider your practice. So I'm also interested in starting sharing kind of vision you have on your spaces, whether you call it, because when I talk about institutions, I don't mean institutions in a classical way, and I'm completely here with Alex and Lorenzo when talking about that. And I'm also interested in one of the pre-conversations we had with Alex. We were talking about institution and non-institution, and we'll be talking about also radically expressing oneself, radically being active, but radically caring about things. So it's more about putting one in a position which is much more towards imagination, inventiveness, and action than only responsiveness, and which is also part of the critique. So probably I will continue with Alex, who maybe can share a bit more about the recent changes in around your I would call it small size institution. And it would be also great if you mention a few words about the project you actually contribute to the show, which is called Institutional Healing, and it has a lot to do with connecting spaces.
Sure. So yeah, I was just like thinking of what Cristina said about not believing in the public space anymore. And this actually has a lot to do with like the last changes in our restructuring as an organization, even if very small. Before we were in a sort of domestic setting, even if not, not like a house where you go, like it's not the type of project space where it's like someone's living room inviting artists to do something, to show some works or something like that. But it was actually very much shaped by the character of going to an apartment and, like you're knocking on the door of someone and actually having to go through this sort of ritual, which was indeed very private in a way, of like intimate, if you want. But then on the other hand, there was like some limitations, like while carrying the program, that were like merely practical, about just like working with performance or working with sound or working with many media and many formats that we could not afford to work with because of the nature of the space. But there was also this wheel of kind of connecting, even if I also do not believe in public space right now, it still exists. I mean, it's just there. It's just like, there's like places for encounter and just like a kind of like different conception of what the public is, which is of course very much shape of like this kind of conflict of interest of how the private affects the public, and how one another they kind of erase each other in a way, or more like the private or the marketalization of life being or having a very strong impact on the public sphere. So basically it was just like going to that space, I don't know if public or not, but going to like a more accessible space for everyone to have the conversations we were having in the former space. And actually it's been like quite a radical change in the sense of just like dealing with day-to-day issues with the community, from the people having shops next to our space, or just like the neighborhood, and so on, by extension the city and the region and the country and blah blah blah. So just like this kind of more direct way of dealing with the different bubbles of which we are part of is kind of very different in these two settings that we've been occupying. And as a reflection of this, of how to communicate, whether from a private or an intimate or a more public sphere, we kind of reacted to your invitation, Viktoria, thinking a lot about language and how language is like a technology for mediation, like our more basic and most primary technology to communicate our institutions or our programs, but also to communicate ourselves in our daily life, and how language is kind of very often saved by other conditions and structure that make us use different types of language according to different types of scenarios or agendas. So in that sense, we were like thinking of how to actually radically reimagine the type of language that we wanted to use for a new type of purpose, for a new type of institution, and a new way, or maybe not so new, but a different way of being together as societies. So, a more caring, more solidar, more like also more coherent way of being together. And in that sense, I think I suddenly thought of just poetry as a very useful tool to communicate, to kind of radically change the practicality of language. Like, poetry is really not practical. It's much more experiential or atmospheric or visual type of language. So just like thinking of throwing out their words that were kind of, say, by this poetical attitude, was kind of a very simple gesture, a very very easy, very very easy, but also like how to actually use it in a way that was efficient as well. So that's why we thought of like kind of distributing or making these poems circulate. The poems are by four authors, 4 poets. It's C.A. Conrad, Aileen Miles, Rita Indiana, and Diane Brand. And the 4 of them have something very strongly in common, which is like using language to heal memories, to heal experiences, to heal the individual relation to structural dimensions, whether political or social or otherwise. So this selection of poems actually were like almost given as a present to other institutions or public spaces, or just like, I don't know, shops or bars or different spots within Prague. And also within Futura. So it's part of the exhibition, but at the same time, it's more than that. And it's kind of spreading outside, or like filtering from the institution to the outside. Again, in this kind of constant negotiation of the private-public spheres. So yeah, that's very much what institutional healing was about.
Can you hear actually?
We can hear you, Viktoria.
Not me, Dragos. I think Dragos tries to talk.
Maybe
I cannot hear Dragos.
Maybe he can call your phone, and you can put your phone next to your microphone.
Okay, let's do it like this.
Hacking the system.
Yes.
second.
Okay.
In a second, sorry.
That's okay.
Colleague.
Okay, we're still in a connecting modus. I'm sorry, we still have to wait a little bit so we can. I would really think, wait a second. Okay, we still don't have moment on that, and really sorry, the Dragos cannot fully participate, and let's see whether he can join in. But if you like, I would really like to talk about all contributions which have been actually called as tools. This was the initial proposition as the invitation was sent to all of you, and I asked you to send tools which you think deem for more important, what you want to share about you and your organization, about how you participate within the society. So probably we can just go on and talk about, and I can show also some images. Oh, I see something. Okay, wait a second.
Hello.
Now it works.
You can hear me okay? Sorry. I don't know, it's a mess because it worked a bit earlier, the laptop. Okay, sorry, now it's a bit weird, the image, but yeah. Nice to see you, nice to hear you all. I'm Dragos from Apparatus 22, one of the 3 people working in the collective. I'm working together with 2 brilliant girls, Eriko and Maria. Eriko is around, but she doesn't want to talk because she's too shy. And Maria, she still has to work on something, so she's saying hi from Bucharest. So just a bit about us. We are working in a sort of a constellation with quite a few aspects. One of them is the art collective, Apparatus 22. We sort of see ourselves as a collective, a transdisciplinary collective of daydreamers, of poetic activists, of failed futurologists and researchers. This is one thing. Another thing is something that I'm doing with someone else called Sandra Demetrescu. It's called Kilo-Based Bucharest, and it's a sort of a nomadic unit looking at curating and at three aspects: Bucharest, queer, and economics. And there's one more thing in the constellation, which is a very small non-profit organization called ED, not OD, but ED, which is more like a sort of structure behind our activities, but not only behind our activities, but we do many other things also to support other people too. Also, we run a small library in Bucharest and, related things. And talking a bit about, the idea of instituting, and I think it was not very programmatic for us that we got close to this, let's say, of working in this area necessarily, but a few years ago we started to do lots of works that are reflecting on the idea of what institutions could be, what different kinds of institutions could be in the future, and we are doing many things that are also quite immaterial. For example, recently we started to work also with names and concepts for other people. For example, now we work, recently we did this name and a sort of a concept for Kunstsaal Ghent, for a space that is in between, inside and outside of Kunstsaal Ghent, that will have a very different way of operating than the entire Kunsthalle. Or working now on, we're very close to work on a name for the new space that Apart, it's opening in Bratislava, and together with them, that would also be a reflection of what, micro institution could be in their case. Just very, very short about, how we work on things. And I think, just thinking about what Cristina said a bit earlier, we still do have hope in this idea of public space and finding ways to engage with people in and in fact more and more outside institutions, talking about art institutions. And we felt the need lately to go outside of the institutions and to I don't know, to just reach to people that never go to see whatever exhibitions. It's always nice to be in exhibitions, you know. We're in some museums, whatever, with our work, but then we just felt the need to go outside and just, yeah, have encounters that are not possible in art institutions. So just, yeah, a bit about how we see things these days, which unfortunately, you know, is very frustrating these days with the crisis. We started the year doing this insane project where we, it's this radio installation that is just here next to me. We went to homes of people in different places in Graz, in Ghent, and in Brussels, to just people that we didn't know. They booked us to go with the radio to their home and to do these listening sessions talking about queer love and love from non-human perspectives. And then suddenly, you know, it was super intense. It was just insane, intense in sense of just encountering people we would never be able to encounter in other contexts, and entering their homes and talking about, you know, some things that maybe for some of these people are too much or too alien, but in the same time we're appealing to empathy of these people. So no, we started the year like this. We had many plans to continue with the radio, to go into some other cities, and then the crisis started and everything just, you know, fall to a sort of abyss. So now we are also thinking about, you know, how we can do things in a different way. I think I'm running also out of battery. Can you have a battery? Yeah. I was not ready with the phone to do the phone thing. But you are showing... Sorry, Viktoria, sorry.
This actually, I just shared an image of the artwork which you shared with the show.
Okay. Well, you know, when you send the invitation, we thought a lot about what to propose, or, you know, what to bring in a conversation, and we ended up thinking of 3 works that are also tools for us to sort of open conversations and hopefully bring some change, or to appeal to empathy, or, you know, they have many roles. And then this one that you have in the image is called Erratic Statistics, and it's like a bar covered in leather that we use to open conversation against racism, against colorists, against, you know, black and white look at the world, and also to celebrate diversity. And talking about also what Alex said a bit earlier about, you know, having these ways of reaching out beyond and spreading a gift sometimes. We always, when we present this work, we always give one as a gift to the people going to the exhibition. For example, the idea was in Futura that some of the visitors, or if someone of the visitors that are interested in carrying on the mission of the work, you know, of talking against racism, against colorism, or celebrate diversity, if someone was interested, they just sign up, and in the end it's a lottery and someone wins the work. But I don't know if that is still possible. But anyway, talking about this, we also want to send all of you in the group one of these works as a way to sort of, you know, have you as accomplices in spreading the word about, you know, these such topics, which I'm sure it's important for all of you. Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
I don't want to take over. Yes, I'm here. Or maybe if you want, if I'm still on, I can tell you about something exciting. This I'm wearing this, you know, because I thought it's very important conversation for many people, and I wanted to say that we are very ready to be able to produce and distribute 100 of such uniforms for artists and curators. It's been a long, long dream of ours to talk about, you know, to do something empowering for artists and curators, to open conversations about, you know, valuation of art and artistic labor and recognition of that, and curatorial labor, of course. And then, so now in January, we start to distribute 100 of such uniforms that are talking about valuation of art This one is the good version when it's when you've been paid for working in an exhibition or in a project, or this one, it's the other version when you're not paid to be. And the idea is that the artists and curators that are interested in using the uniforms can write us, and we will give them in exchange of a short video with answering to one of the. We will have 3 questions, and people will choose just one of them. Talking about why artists work, or or about different ways of thinking about care for artists, maybe beyond even beyond this idea of fee. Maybe there are many other ways. We can imagine of thinking about care for artists and curators and recognition of artistic labor. So yes, just something that we are very excited about this day. So I wanted to share with you all. Yes. This is all for the moment.
Thank you, Dragos. Probably I want also to ask Ben and Lorenzo, being in Berlin, are there particular projects you've been planning recently which in a way reflect on the recent situation? And also, I would love to hear a few words on your contribution and you sent to Futura, and I can share some image during your speaking, while you're speaking.
We're working on an exhibition series now called Maintenance, Domestics as Institutional Becomings, and we're doing it as an exception because normally we don't do exhibitions. Actually, we've built an entire program since moving into the space in June 2018 around encounters. It's very important for us at the Institute for Endotic Research to encounter other practices, to experience the works firsthand, whether that's a projected video, whether it's a poetry reading or a performance, or even just an extended studio visit, as we like to think of some of the encounters that we do at TIR. And because of the limitations of assembly in public spaces in Berlin throughout the summer and early fall, we inevitably chose to begin this exhibition program. But in many ways, it was linked and is still linked to concepts and practices that we were already working with, namely the domestic. We're in our, at least half of us seem to be in domestic spaces at the moment, if not more. We're totally accustomed now to being in the public space in our homes, right? This is now something that has become visibilized through the practice of online conferencing, as it extends throughout society and class. And it's something that is, in a way, visibilizing what was already happening in our private spaces, in our domestic spaces, through the incursions of Google, Facebook, and all of the platforms that are extracting personal data from us. That aside, we're also very interested in the role that domestic work plays in institutions. So if you go to a museum, of course, you're not going to see the work of cleaning, of repair, of maintenance, and so forth. This is something that Mirla Laderman-Eukelis, who inspired the title of our current exhibition series, did make visible in her work in the Manifesto for Maintenance Art 1969, in her actions, cleaning the steps of the museum and so forth. This inspired what we're doing now, which is a kind of extended conversation between artists we invite to the space for the exhibition series, having a conversation with the works that are permanently installed at TIR. We have another format we work with, which is the format of the intervention. In this way, we think about the space as a habitable sculpture and ask artists not to create exhibitions normally, but instead to produce a work that becomes a functional, even a functional and aesthetic element of the space that's permanently installed. So within the exhibition series, these interventions remain present and are part of a conversation with the artists, who are also part of a series, and in that way are having a conversation kind of through time with the other participants. But maybe Lorenzo has something to add to that.
Mm.
Yep. Well, actually, it's important to mention, like, before the pandemic happened, we were already working on this project, which we were actually planning a publication on the topic of domestics as institutional becomings, also underlining like the becomings in the institutional, like as a process that it's necessary, always unfinished, and open to change and open to negotiation, as we understand the institutional practice as well. Like, shouldn't be something that it's closed and finished and sacred, so to say. So yeah, we've been very much interested in like how normally in the Arbor there is a tendency, maybe less now, but there is a tendency of always thinking about the final work of art, like a piece like it's like in itself an autonomous. And we prefer to think through a series of interdependence constellations. So that's why one of the interests we have is in reproductive labor, like all the work that it's of sustaining other people practices, supports the structures, as Lincoln already sharply mentioned like a long time ago. And yeah, for us, it's quite important also like to try to go out of the notion of the white cube. This like tabula rasa like follows the very neoliberal logic of constant renewal. And instead working with these interventions and now also with the exhibitions in a way that actually what we develop is a series of cohabitations, which we have to negotiate the people with the space. Because as you can imagine, when we invite the artists and we tell them like, oh, by the way, all these artworks that they are there and there, like they can't be moved. So many people actually have problems with that. And we had like in most of the cases like people were super nice and it worked very nicely actually, although we have also to negotiate the space. But we had the like sometimes problems also, like people even like didn't want to be part. So also like we try to push the negotiations like as a self-imposed political problem. Yes, so yeah, I think like the idea of like cohabitation, actually, like how to develop strategies of cohabitation, it's in that sense quite important as well with interdependence. And yeah, and then maybe I mention a couple of things about the our contributions to the project. Yeah, yeah, like when we started the conversation about like providing tools, so like one of the things Viktoria was thinking, it's like with the movable membrane, that was a piece made for the Finnish pavilion last Venice Biennial, which actually didn't work. It's like this modular system you can see in the exhibition. Like in the pavilion didn't work because this modular system was supposed to be something like hosting like many different activities like through the biennial. So yeah, you can see there in the picture. So it's very easy to recombine and provide different situations and so on. But then what happened is like in the pavilion, like we didn't get like the funding we were planning. So all these activities we were envisioning like never happened. And at the end, it was very nice because I mean it was there for like the people could see the video or outside, but also like for like putting the flyers on top. And actually, it's now a little bit a pity also. Like Futura was supposed to be part of hosting the activities, and then it stayed more like as a sculpture, so to say, but it is also very nice. And it's like the idea of movable membrane, because when we were having with Bonaventure, Giovanna and Christopher the conversations about what to do in the pavilion, like through this idea of the miracle and the miracle of life, like Bonaventure proposed, then I was thinking like a process of osmosis, no, like thinking about the shape of the cells, no, the organs and so on inside of these like microscopic organisms, like how they provide a process of osmosis, no. There is a process of interchange, but in this interchange there is not everything goes away. So there's a process also of like molecular negotiation, so to say. And the other artwork that is presented there, it's like diagrams for self-organization and Fábrica Colectiva, which is part of a bigger project I'm not going to talk now, called shadow writing. But this specific work, it was a research on the collectivizations in Spain, which actually they had like a great scale, like really great importance, but somehow like in Spain, like we don't know much about all this like anarchist history. Like as a matter of fact, like one of the things, this was commissioned by the IBAM, that is a museum in Valencia, but has a franchise, so to say, in Alcoy. Like one of the other works that was there was a selection of photomontages from the collection of the IBAM, that has one of the biggest collections in Europe, at least, about photomontage. And there was not even a single artwork by an anarchist artist. It was quite shocking. So yeah, it's a way to look at these self-organized systems that, at least in the civil war, was quite successful. So like thinking about possible ways of organizing, like I thought, yeah, like these self-organized systems, like of the collectivizations, yeah, it was like a good way to pose it. Yeah, so maybe Ben can also say something about his contribution.
Thanks, Lorenzo. I would, yeah, I did a series of drawings when I was in quarantine in March in Spain. Funny enough, I was beginning an artist residency in Blanca, Murcia, in the south of Spain, kind of a town inland from the coast, about an hour and a half. And it's at a place called AADK Spain, which is quite beautiful, actually. If you go there, you can get a lot of work done in solitude and enjoy the nice sunny terrace, which I definitely did during quarantine. And it was quite a surreal experience because from this residency that's kind of perched up on the side of the hill, it's one of the highest locations in the town. You can look out over the town of Blanca and see people exercising on the roof. You can see everything that's happening in the streets, essentially like you're an owl looking over the city. And this was such a strange perch to have during the corona pandemic as it was coming on, because in Spain it was especially strict in terms of lockdown and what you could do in public life. Everything was enclosed, everything completely. All of the museums were closed. And that's just, I mean, restaurants, bars, everything, literally everything. The only things that were open in March were supermarkets and hospitals and pharmacies. You could really only get like the bare essentials. And but at the same time, of course, factories were still open. No, there were certain places that could remain open that were, you know, central to the capitalist production. There were certain central to public health and to kind of survival. But every aspect of life that makes it rich was sequestered to the domestic. And in this space, this mental and physical space, in a place that is strange to me, that I never had the chance to meet, because it was immediately a quarantine situation within 2 weeks since I arrived, I produced these drawings. And for me, it was a way to develop a product that I wanted to work on anyway, but within a very unique kind of context. And that was to take the notion of rhythm analysis. It's an artistic concept, but it was adopted by Henri Lefebvre. He wrote about it as a kind of technique for social harmony, for achieving social harmony. In his sense, I think that meant as part of a revolutionary project. And I combined that with the notion of the algorithm, to use algorithms and flowcharts as a way to document daily rhythms. And within the context of the pandemic in Spain, I used it as a way to document the kind of disjunction in everyday life, and to visualize that through the algorithmic flowchart. And what I would produce for the exhibition was then a kind of extension of that into these sculptural works that are created using a laser cutter and fluorescent acrylic glass. And it was actually a complete coincidence. I didn't even realize until after I shipped the works that they really resemble these kind of plastic shields that you see nowadays everywhere in cashiers at every time you try to go to the supermarket or the post office, especially in Germany. They have shields that look very similar with these kind of feet and a very almost the exact same kind of tectonic construction. There was a definite like subconscious leakage in those works, which I think actually fits well to the idea.
Yeah, thank you. I wanted to give the word to Cristina to tell us a little bit more about her contribution, and I only want to mention first that we've been talking for an hour, and second that we have interviews that have been an extensive version of this conversation, which is only invitation to have a look at the exhibition, which will be open until Sunday, and at the digital version of it. But the interviews with each space and everyone who is running in charge of the spaces or the organizations, you can see online. So, Cristina, it will be great to learn something about your contribution, and to wrap it up, and just like a last question, and to finalize this talk, it would be great if every one of you mention one word on, I don't know, like future of this type of organizations, or what you plan to do next. What is your strategy? Just like very short. And thank you.
Okay. I can also keep it short. I am possibly not interested at all in the art world, so I guess there was some interest in that when I first started with art, because I thought that was the space in which I had to function. But the more I got interested in art, the less I'm interested in the art world and in all of these rules and ironies and layers of meaning, which ultimately are for me like a kind of trap. So I had been, disconnecting from this also before the pandemic, actually. About half a year before that, I started to happily live in isolation. And I think that is where I could actually finally create. And I think that was my most genuine connection with art. And I would encourage anyone who actually wants to to make art, to not be so stressed about institutions. I guess there are means to, I would say, to create meaning outside of this. I understand the value of what I have been doing, everyone in kind of our scale has been doing, but I think we have been, part of many traps, I would say, particularly in the case of Romania, but that is a long conversation, which is not, it's not very fun to have now. But I would say we were not exactly playing by our rules. So I think it's whatever we did is only like partial solutions to what were really complicated issues. So in that sense, that's what I was saying at the beginning about the work that I sent, which is it's about, you know, just you know, a kid who's playing with something that he enjoys. He's creating his own world, and there are other kind of layers to that. But if you want to engage with the work, then, you know, then you can, and you can find other layers to that. But I think it was also like the project itself was a good opportunity to realize that you know, meeting people for real doesn't have to happen within any kind of framework. We've been discussing the possibility of creating frameworks. I don't think it's on our level that happens. I think frameworks happen, you know, in like you know, billionaires and that kind of people framework, you know, level. So we are not the people who create frameworks, but we can be the people who create content. So that is actually, that is good news, I think, because we can actually connect to other people. So in terms of this word for the future, that was a surprise move. I don't know. I guess what would be a good word? Focus. Not let yourself be distracted, I guess. I think that the art world is exactly that. It's like attention economy. So you easily get trapped, you know, doing things which are completely beside the point of what you wanted to do. So I think, you know, with a little more focus and a little less, you know, getting caught in all of these games, then you know, we could be producing more content, more, you know, more opportunities to actually communicate. So that's it.
Thank you, Cristina. Dragos, you can talk now. Oh, Alex, why are we waiting for Dragos?
Yeah, I also don't know. It's really hard to think in terms of future, and in terms of envisioning some kind of landscape or some kind of image that is not really, I don't know, graspable or tangible or whatever. So I can maybe speak more in terms of potentiality or desire or wills, which I guess makes more sense and is more, it's closer to where we are now, I guess. So I think, I don't know, I kind of see art as somehow becoming more like artists having an attitude that is trying to move the picture outside of, I don't know, as kind of a neutral space, or more like even like just like destroying the art world. I think artists are like really pushing to kind of getting rid and getting a new into a different sort of system, and actually just like art being live, or like being more, you know, it's an old desire, and it's an old strategy that has been going on for like decades now. But you know, I think now it's just like coming back very strongly, and I think institutions can maybe contribute, institutions or organizations or just like curators or just organizers, people just like working within this system can actually just like contribute to, you know, dismantling the art system as it is now, and just like pushing for art to exist in a different, and actually to exist in life as it is, in a more tangible way, and not as a kind of yeah, I don't know, I really don't know.
Thank you, Alex. We saw, unfortunately, that Vasilis is not here anymore. He had to run home because of confinement in his own city because of COVID. So he left actually quite early. Lorenzo and then Dragos, I don't hear you. No. This could be your contribution, yes. But yes, Ben and Lorenzo, do you want to say just a final word, and then we go home? And I'm really thankful for that you take part of. Oh yes. If you write down in the comment section the question, I can just read it.
Actually, it's funny that Dragos was. I mean, now it's another one, but the previous one, Dragos was asking about which kind of metaphors art institutions can provide, if I remember correctly. What metaphors for future art institutions could fiction provide? Yeah, and actually it's very nice, because with the question I was precisely thinking about the word metaphors. Also, like in connection with Cristina and Alex, like thinking actually like how there is the tendency of going towards the final product, and I think arts or culture in general should be something more like creating a space for encounter, and actually should work as a metaphor in the literal sense. Like it's like a medium of transport, actually. Like that's like. Like in Greek, metaphor means actually, it's funny like to walk there and then you see the bus, it's with a metaphor, no? So actually it's like this idea of like art as a medium of transport, brings you something somewhere else, like and it's not an end in itself or a game between people. I think like for me actually it should be something to keep in mind, like how like it's like a system of communication or intermediation or conflict as well. Like I think that's quite important to keep the capacities of producing like operative conflicts or like useful conflicts. I think that's something important as well as a way also of introducing process of commonings. Yeah, so metaphor I think would be the words.
I think that the metaphor in practice is ultimately what we're doing. All of us probably to some extent, because I wanted to pick up also on what Cristina drew, this kind of dichotomy between the people who create the frameworks and the people who create the content. And yeah, so how to create disidentification with these structures, no, these frameworks. Your full screen, Dragos. Do you want to show us anything else?
And Dragos, now we can read your message, or I can read it at least, because otherwise I couldn't see it. Thank you. How to conjure a proliferation of fierce hybrid formats, decisive disidentification with norms and superfinite care. Thank you. But sorry, Ben, please continue.
So no, it's a wonderful question, and it ties in exactly to what I wanted to discuss, which is this kind of false dichotomy, maybe, if I can go so far, as the kind of overstructure and but the superstructure and the base. No, like there's something in between. There's something in between that will become framework, that will become further content, or will be forgotten. No, and the metaphor somehow brings into existence something that doesn't exist yet, only through practice. No, it's possible, of course, to work metaphorically through text, through poetry, and so forth. And this in a way elicits transformation, but to produce a space and to be working in the space with people, with objects, and to actually be to be engaging in productive transformations of that space, even if it is a fiction or even if it is metaphorical, it creates a model, or it creates a precedent, or it creates some kind of idea of how space could be different. It's a utopian situation, essentially. And I think this is something that allows for different frameworks to emerge that might not be so maligned, that might not be so exploitative. It remains to be seen. This is always the problem with experimentation, not only the threat of failure, which is an integral part of any process, but also the threat that what you produce could be co-opted for interests that are not aligned to yours. This is ultimately the problem of participation, the problem of spatial practice. No?
But framework doesn't mean that you create a new space, a new art space. A new framework, is like Facebook is a new framework, Amazon is a new framework, and they are just frameworks. They're empty. There is no content there. So this is what I meant. This is the kind of thing that I understand by that. That is what I mean by framework, not just another new space in the art world, which is a framework, and it's it's quite stable, and it's been stable for ever since you have this hashtag contemporary art. It has a function, and whatever. I don't believe that we are creating frameworks within there. I mean, we're variating things. That's nice, but a new framework means like economical, social, political. It's a symbolic as well. So what I'm saying is that this is not an ambition that we can have with the grants from the Goethe Institute. This is an ambition that you have when you're turning billions and running countries. So it's just a different I think, and we have to deal with what we're what we can deal with, I think. So that's why I would say that being more focused on creating content would actually make a huge difference, because if we stop being interested in the glitter of the creation of frameworks, we would actually be producing more content. So which is lacking, I think, because everyone is obsessed with the way in which the content is presented, but there's no content there. So I don't want to sound like it's not a but I'm trying to put into kind of perspective what I said, because it maybe sounded a bit like ungrounded, but it's part of a larger maybe thinking which I've been engaged with. It's just that here it maybe sounds like a kind of flipping framework dichotomy. But I mean, there is a real thinking behind that, but definitely worth discussing. I don't know if now Viktoria will kill us if we
I want to discuss it actually.
having a debate,
because I do think like frameworks they are not parts separated from the content. It's like an integral part of the content. It's the framework, and by producing a framework, actually you're producing content. Like we just have to think about something like Viktoria can speak quite well, like its law. For example, like the law, like it's like a legal framework. Actually, that's one of the ways of producing reality. But also like having that consideration beyond that, I think there's something like I think also like when you were talking, I think important to consider in how to produce content and how to produce change or not. I think it's important also like to work from different scales as well, because of course there are things like first of all there are like machines for abstraction when there is like huge scales like abstraction in an economic sense, the way like they produce social conditions at large, but there are like many other systems like Like if we think about decentralized systems and small organizations, actually, there is like a set of direct changes like we can provide. And I think in that sense, like thinking about rescaling the means, it might provide different ways of producing possible structures we can do change.
But you know that doesn't happen. There is never a rescaling. That is not possible. I mean, that is one of the most important understandings I've had of small organizations, that the purpose of them is that they will forever remain small. I mean, that is the framework of the art world, that, you know, you will always have these small organizations that fulfill a specific, you know, fantasy of, you know, whatever, free culture, progressive ideas.
I think
all
there are
of
like
this,
many options there, no? There is not only one type of a small organization, I would say. Drafting, it's a good work. Dragos, it's pointing out there.
You mean like grafting onto a bigger organization, or what what? This is, I like this meme. We can guess what he's saying. You're so cute, Dragan. Put the full sign up. Come on, tell us.
You can write it in the comment section, but yeah, I think we definitely need to meet again and continue this conversation. Dragos, your last word.
Grafting.
Good vibes and much love. Thank you. Thank you, Dragos, and thank you so much to everyone. I know it's late, and I know it was like actually we heard on Monday that the exhibition will open, so we managed to organize very quick this conversation, and this is our first conversation, and it's only a beginning. And I hope to see you all soon. And thank you once again for everything.
Thank you.
Thank you, Viktoria.
Thank you.
Thank you, Viktoria.
Sorry, everyone,
Thank
and also
you.
thank to the people
Bye.
of Futura as well. Like
Matt.
Yes, exactly. And to mention once again, all content will be available on their webpage, inclusively in the conversations and all text. So thank you so much. Bye bye.
Have a nice weekend. Bye.